Oh, Gerrard slipped and get the bars in here. Here's Rodriguez again. It's a stunning volley.
Listeners, hello, welcome back. It's For The Fans Show. Week 31 of the Premier League season has just been completed, and we're back again for another show. I'm joined this week by Work the Space, otherwise known as Jack. Hi, Jack.
Hello, yeah, I'm back. I
always find it strange saying hi, Jack, but welcome back. You had a little week off.
I did. I was busy with work, sorted it out now. We're back. Premier League action. Lots of Premier League action. I don't like the midweek games. It kind of throws off our schedule.
Yeah, I mean, as if we had a schedule. I'm also joined by Callum Keane. Keano, good to see you.
Good evening.
And finally, Christopher Proud's back. How you doing, Proudy?
I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to not actually getting anything in because Jack's here. So,
well, we'll see.
Shots fired. Yeah.
An early dig. If you want to hear more of Proudy, tune into last week's show. Right then, we're going to start off not with a feature, but with an email. Jack, you weren't here last week, so I didn't get the opportunity to read this out to the group. But I was sent an email on March the 10th, it was a while ago, by Jackson, and it reads as follows. Good day.
I've been looking forward to this, by the way.
I'm a big fan of the podcast and was listening to the most recent episode when Jack said something that really pissed me off.
Excellent.
He was talking.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
He was talking about Arsenal's suspect spending last summer, and when he mentioned they were wrong to spend 35 million on Mustafi, a player he claimed has rarely played in the Premier League this season, knowing this could not be true, I did my research and discovered he's played 19 of Arsenal's 26 Premier League games this season. Furthermore, by the time he signed for Arsenal, there are already 3 games into the season, meaning he's played 19 of a possible 23 in the Premier League this season, or 83%. I share his opinion that he's not worth the fee. However, claiming he's rarely played when he started 83% of the games is a bit silly. I think Jack's behaviour as an ambassador for the Fan Show is disgraceful, and he should be publicly shamed on the next podcast.
Excellent.
Big fan of your work. Keep it up. Jack, respond.
If you spend £35 million on a centre-back and they only play 83% of the games, that's not actually that great. I feel like if you spend that much on a centre-back, they should be playing every game. I know that he's now going to write another email saying Mustafi was injured, which you are absolutely correct, but I'm not going to mention... Well, I have mentioned it now, so it kind of diminishes my argument. But
of course, he scored a good goal as well.
Great goal at the weekend. He gets his first one-to-watch card in FIFA this week. So
well done, Mustafi. Right then, let's move on to this week's feature after we've got the admin out of the way. This week's feature keeps with it's sort of a Premier League / international theme. The game we're going to play is England goal scorers. Basically, who scored more than 50 goals for England while being a Premier League striker, or players that have played in the Premier League and got over 50 goals for England. We can follow that? Yeah?
50 international goals for England.
No, they've scored 50. They've scored over 50 goals in the Premier League, and they're an England international.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was thinking there aren't that many players who scored 50 goals for England internationally.
I went all proud with my explanation. If you name a player who scored over 100 goals in the Premier League, that's just 1 point. If you name a player who scored less than 100 goals, that's 2 points. So obviously the more sort of obscure the player, slightly more points are awarded. We're gonna have a few rounds of this until I decide it's gone on too long. So Keano, we're going to start with you. A player in the Premier League that scored 50 goals but has also played for England.
Michael Owen.
Michael Owen gets you 1 point. 150 goals for Mr. Owen.
I'm still not quite sure. Are we just naming people?
You're just naming footballers that have scored over 50 goals in the Premier League and have also played for England.
Oh, wow, okay.
English internationals that have scored 50. There's a surprising amount. So we're going through this. Shout out to Squawker, by the way, who did this in the week. Jack, over to you.
Let us know.
Jack, over to you.
I feel like you've got to... I don't want to give one that's wrong, but at the same time I can't...
Sorry. I should clarify. If you get 2 wrong, you're out.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, that's better.
I like that. Yeah, there you are.
I kind of want to go with a risky one, but I'm worried it's... No, I can't. I'm not going to go for it. I was going to say Bobby Zamora, but I don't think he's got 50 Premier League goals. So I won't say him. I'll say Peter Crouch.
Peter Crouch has 100 Premier League goals, as he just hit that. So is that 1 or 2 points?
3.
I guess that's 1 point because he's got 100 or more. So it's just the one for you there, Jack. And over to Proudy.
Well, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to say Les Ferdinand.
Les Ferdinand, a risky pick there with 149 Premier League goals, Proudy. Yeah. Point for you.
Oh, he scored less than that. Oh, it's not.
And back to Keno.
Robbie Fowler.
Robbie Fowler, another point to Keno. No, again, he scored 163, so quite a lot. Jack?
Who did Jack say first time around? Sorry, I would just...
No, you don't tell him.
He said... all right, I won't tell you, but it was Peter Crouch.
Answer gets you out. Frank Lampard.
Frank Lampard, 177. Proudy.
Matt Letizia.
Matt Letizia, 100. Same as Peter Crouch. So a point to you. Back to Keno.
Frank Lampard.
Well, he's out.
That is a yellow card to Keno. It's just been said.
Sorry.
Yellow. Yellow card.
Steven Gerrard.
No, well, that was going to be my answer. Steven Gerrard.
No, he gets to have it. Steven Gerrard. You always had 2 bookings in the space of a minute there, which could have been curtains for you. But yeah, Steven Gerrard is correct answer. Gerrard scored 120 goals.
Alan Shearer.
Top goal scorer, 260. You have that. There you are, 1 point. Proudy?
Teddy Sheringham.
Teddy Sheringham. Actually, do you know what? We're going to keep doing this until 2 people are out. That's the game we're going to play.
Oh, gosh, it's going to go for a while, but I'm nervous.
Teddy Sheringham, point, 146. You know.
Oh, Jermaine Defoe.
Jermaine Defoe has scored 157. Good grief.
That's a good total, isn't it?
More than Owen, that is, by the way. Just to clarify, more than Owen. Jack?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Just English players that have scored more than 50 goals in the Premier League.
Part of me wants to say Ricky Lambert, but he's not got that many.
Shut up.
Oh gosh, there's so many obvious ones and none of them are in my head. Paul Scholes, he must have 50.
Ooh. Paul Scholes, 107.
Oh, okay.
So you don't even get 2 points for that, Jack.
I'm a bit disappointed.
Because no one's given me a 2-point answer yet, which is great.
Hang on, what does the 2-point answer count as?
If they've got less than 100 goals, so they're a little bit more obscure, more of a risk.
Okay.
Welcome to the feature, Proudy.
Darren Bent.
Darren.
It's a good one. I like it.
106 again. Anyone?
He's got more than I expected.
Yeah. Keno, back to you.
I'll keep it to Alan Shearer. Just keep.
And Keno is sent off, as we've already had that answer from Jack. It's a second booking, and he's off. Keno ends his round.
It's been a long week. Do you know, I think that's the lowest of my feature lows, to be honest.
4 points.
Like, I just forget what Jack. But although I think, what was the name of the guy who emailed in? What was his name?
I've lost it.
I think Jackson will be pleased because he can now see that I don't listen to a word Jack says. So
yeah, excellent. Disappointing there. I think all round. Right, Jack, it's a straight shootout.
Jermaine Defoe.
And you're booked.
Yeah.
No, take it.
Who said Jermaine Defoe? Why wasn't I listening?
The feeling's mutual, Jack. I can assure you, the feeling is mutual.
Proudy, not only are you quite good at the feature, you'll be gifted it this week, my friend. Right. Jack, you still get an option.
Oh, I still have to get one
to bin this completely. Can I just say, I'm looking at the list of names, right?
There's a lot of names.
There's about 40 in front of me. So, come on.
Andy Cole,
third on the list, 187 point, and you go ahead of the feature. You're leading the feature at this point.
Yes, let's go. Wait, so if I get a 2-point answer and Proudy gets a 1 point, I can just throw and win on points.
Well, you could just try and go
because if you get sent off, then
you've got to be careful. Proudy?
Alan Smith.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
I don't know if he has that many goals.
Could he have the jackpot?
I'll tell you now, Alan Smith is not on my list, Proudy.
Oh no!
Okay.
And that is a yellow card. Yeah. I mean, I'll do some backup research in case they've missed him out, but he's not scored. He's not scored as many as you think. No one else researched this. That'd be cheating, so I'll look this up. But as you got that wrong, you can go for another one.
David Beckham.
David Beckham is a point. 38 goals, by the way, for Leeds. Alan Smith, only 7 for Manchester United. So there you are. David Beckham is a 2-point answer.
Ooh.
So takes the lead in the feature as we go back over to Jack.
Oh, I had one in my head and then proudly screwed up and it threw me off.
Was it Allenson?
No, it was a midfielder and I was really unsure if they'd have that many and I genuinely can't remember who it was.
Also, there's quite a few on the 50 threshold.
Oh, who was it? It was a winger. Joe Cole. It's a risky one. I'm going for it. I don't think he might.
Joe Cole, and the winner of this week's feature.
I just wanted it over.
Christopher Proud. I'm going to now read out all the names, boys, and you're going to be ashamed at yourselves for missing some of these. Names you didn't say then. Ian Wright, Dion Dublin, Emil Heskey, Kevin Phillips, James Beattie, Kevin Davis, Kevin Campbell, Chris Sutton, Tony Cottio, Bon Lahore, Keno. Disappointing.
I thought I had Bon Lahore.
Bloody hell.
Chris Armstrong, Brian Dean, Daniel Sturridge, Kevin Nolan.
So many
amazed.
obvious ones.
Nobody said Harry Kane, which amazed me. Harry Kane's got 68.
I sort
Dean
of went
Holdsworth.
further back in my mind for this.
He did. Theo Walcott, Stan Collymore, Peter Beardsley, Lee Bowyer with 57. That was a bit surprising when I read that. Nick Barmby, Gareth Barry, Keno, Trevor Sinclair, Keno, Darius Vassell, Keno.
Trevor Sinclair, what's he got to do with me?
Did he not play for Villa at some point?
No.
He went Claret and Blue. It wasn't West Ham, apologies. I've done it
Darius Vassell, though. Fair, yeah.
Apologies. Carlton Cole is in there as well. Andrew Johnson, Mark Bright, Andy Carroll, and finally Danny Murphy has scored 50 goals. So you've all largely let yourselves down there, folks. But Proudy once again wins the feature and takes control of it next week.
I
just
checked Joe Cole starts. He got 48 Premier League goals.
Oh,
I'm so salty. I'm so salty.
It's devastating. So there you are then, and that rounds up this week's feature for the week. Let us know how you got on at home. I don't know what I've said that for. Right, let's move on then. It was an interesting week of Premier League action. 20 games were played, and we're going to kick things off with the first game of the weekend. It was Liverpool 3, Everton 1. Not because we're biased, but because it is quite literally
you're
the
always
biggest game
talking about
of the
Liverpool.
weekend. I'm a fan, Keno. I'm not going to lie to you. As I say, it was 3-1 at Liverpool, and it was. We'll come to you first, then, Keno. Everton didn't really look at the races for what was a Merseyside derby.
They didn't, and I think that you almost sort of saw that in the tackles that they were putting in throughout the game as well. It was very odd. I thought honestly that they would be. I mean, in the form that Everton have been in, and you look at the struggles that Liverpool have had. I thought that they would at least maybe do a little bit better than they have done in the recent past, because they have a terrible record in the Merseyside derby. Everton do. I don't think they've won, have they, since 2011.
They've not won at Anfield for a long time.
Blackpool have gone up to the Premier League from the 4th tier, won at Anfield, and then gone down 4 more divisions in the time since Everton last won.
Yeah, we missed that, Jack. We missed that last week.
That's very good. Yeah,
that's good.
We did miss Jack's little token stat. No, I thought they would actually, do a little bit to try and maybe to make that right, but it was an odd game and they didn't really look up for it. And I think that was it Pennington that scored the goal, his first goal. That almost didn't work out for the Everton defence, because it almost sort of relaxed him a little bit too much, and he allowed Coutinho to go in and score that very nice second goal, but he had a little bit too much time, I think, for the finish. And they were just second best throughout, and it's if you look at the record recently, it's not really surprising, but then if you look at Everton's recent form, perhaps it is.
Yeah, it was one of those games that I thought Liverpool largely controlled. A few challenges went in Proudy. Ross Barkley was on the end of a few of them, distributing a few of them. Lucky to stay on the pitch for some of his tackles.
Yeah, I think the occasion probably got to him. I think he's.
Do you think so? Do you think that's what it is? This isn't his first Merseyside derby, I wouldn't imagine. But
yeah, I think. Barkley has been an interesting character this year, because I know at the start of the season there was a lot of talk about how he would fit into the system because he wasn't getting played, and then he got dropped, and then there was a lot of talk about what was going to happen with him, and then he got back into the team and suddenly he was banging form.
He's been in really good form.
Yeah, but I think today, not today, the game that he played, I think he just sort of, I think Lukaku got marked out of the game and didn't help Barkley either, because Barkley, I think it was frustration, wasn't it, that stuff wasn't going his way. Everton weren't defending, Liverpool were just pressing them so well. And I think, the frustration's just boiled over, and that's probably why he ended up doing that awful challenge. It was a red card challenge on Lovren. I mean, you can't put studs up like that and get away with it. I don't know, who's the ref again? Was it?
The
Anthony Taylor. Yeah, I mean he's.
Yeah, it was Anthony Taylor.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think
wasn't
he's the best.
Wasn't on a stag do this week. But,
no.
Speaking of the refs, though, did anyone see the programme with Neville and Carragher?
Yeah, I watched that back after you mentioned it.
I was meant to watch it and forgot.
I recommend it to anyone. Essentially, they go and meet with the refs and do some of the things that the referees obviously do in their sort of their I don't know, we call it training. I guess it's sort of training, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really fascinating to see an insight. I thought it was really interesting what it was either Carragher or Neville that said that if you give these referees personalities, and then sort of Mike Riley, obviously former Premier League official, said these are just people behind sort of the what would you say, like sort of the armour of being a Premier League referee, because they're quite shielded, aren't they, generally speaking? But actually, there's guys behind it, and when you hear from them, I think it does make things a little bit more understanding, and you can be more reasoned. On that, do we think the referees should have the option to come out after games and speak? This is not something we've ever spoken about.
Well, they've done it in the past. I remember there was a game. It was years ago now. I think
they're not supposed to, though, are they? They're not supposed to. That's sort of the rule. They're not allowed to come out and say anything.
Yeah, I can't remember the game. It was 2005. It was a Man United. I think it was Manchester United against Newcastle, and I think it was Paul Durkin was the ref. This is what I'm talking about. 2005. And he made two bad decisions, and then went to the Sky Sports cameras and explained what he'd done. And it actually, like the pundits said, actually praised him because they saw it from his angle that he couldn't see the tackles or something. I think there's penalties and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm in favour of the referee themselves, who has just ref the game, coming out as a player or manager would in a post-match interview, while kind of passions are still running high and sort of attempting to explain it. What I think could be done, because there's the potential for, referees' decisions are based on interpretation anyway, right? And there's the chance that the referee, straight after a game, could come out and almost go on record and speak for other referees and set like a precedent of an interpretation that might not be wanted within the rules in like in a year's time. What I think would be good is actually I forget the acronym, but the board of referees to say maybe a few hours after the game or the day after, release some kind of statement clarifying that decision or speaking on behalf of the referee.
Because in the programme it's quite clear that internally it's discussed at length. Like the decisions that are made. So you wonder that if they could come out and at least say something. There was an important point that was made, though, that the perfect game for a referee is if no one notices him. And if you give them suddenly a platform, I was kind of putting the question out there, I wasn't saying that I think we should hear from them. If you give these referees a platform, all of a sudden they become very accountable for everything they ever do and say. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit dangerous in that essentially what you're saying there is right, that if they come out too early, they put themselves under even more pressure in future games. It's like, well, he said he saw this 1 week, what happens next week and things like this. So there's a fine line. I think there's nothing really wrong with how it is right now, but I do think you're right. Sort of a day after, once everyone's had a look to see what's happened, if they can then come out and clarify the decision.
Yeah, I think there's some scope for like a kind of official capacity, like a kind of official statement or a line from the sort of governing body. Yeah. I think
the theory is you don't want to make the referee suddenly seem inadequate when they're saying this is what I saw, and if it's so obvious that's not what happened, then you create a sort of a decision of, well, should he even be refereeing, and that's not a thing we really want to be getting involved in.
I assume you guys talked about video refs last week.
We did briefly, yeah.
Because I think that is
right
another
kind
of interesting element to it all. I think actually one thing that football doesn't have, which has never really crossed my mind before, but in a lot of other sports, rugby has it, hockey has it, American football has it, the referee on the pitch has to justify his decision kind of vocally. Yeah. He's mic'd up. Don't think that would ever work in football, but that's like almost a similar... I guess it's not similar in the sense that they don't come out after and they're not thrown to the wolves. But at the same time, if the referee is able to kind of clearly explain why a penalty's been given or what he's seen, I mean, maybe he's throwing himself under the bus there. What he sees isn't accurate.
The thing is, rugby players are a lot more polite to the referees than footballers are. And I think there'd have to be a producer very, very quick on the bleeps. It
would have to be delayed, wouldn't it? That's the thing, it would have to be delayed. The interesting thing is, and it's just you say that they have to justify it in that like instance in sort of the NFL and things like this. Martin Atkinson on this programme says something really interesting, that he had a decision once where it's sort of, he's 85% sure it's a penalty, but they won't give it unless it's 100%. I thought that was really interesting, because I've thought that if they're 85-90% sure, then they would give it, but that's not the attitude of referees in the Premier League, or certainly not his attitude anyway. Mike Dean probably thinks 55% we'll have a go on, have it, give it. But I thought it was interesting that they look for the 100%, and logically speaking, right, you'd hope they would want to be 100% sure. But if there's any leeway at all, they obviously don't give it, and that's why a lot of decisions maybe don't go the way they should do.
We should talk a bit more about the game as well.
I was going to say, back to the game though. Liverpool, Jack, look, I mean, it's really obvious to say, it looks so much better with Mane, who obviously picked up an injury and went off in the end. But his goal wasn't bad, was it? That was quite a fun one.
I did enjoy it, and Coutinho's as well, the finish.
Both really good.
A great reply as well, because there is... I feel like a few years ago, Liverpool in this game, with the Pennington goal coming somewhat kind of against the run of play, I guess, early on, to equal it up. It's the kind of game where Liverpool could have easily gone on tilt a few years ago. And, Everton, they've got that momentum going, but it was a very professional kind of response, I guess, and obviously Coutinho scored. And it kind of just felt very comfortable for Liverpool. I felt like Everton really didn't trouble Liverpool. They didn't try and play the way that some teams have really had a lot of success against Liverpool in terms of really trying to punish them kind of on the break and kind of, force mistakes out of Liverpool. They were quite happy for Liverpool just to play the way that they wanted. And I guess, it makes the result midweek all that more frustrating, doesn't it, really? That you win the Merseyside derby here. Everton, I didn't quite realise how high they were in the league until this weekend. They're only 9 points behind Liverpool after this game. They had a real chance to move right into kind of challenging Liverpool for maybe that 5th place spot. If not, I don't want to say Champions League for Everton, but you can dream, right? But in reality, I think Everton are the side outside of the top 6 in the Premier League who are going to be wanting to break into that top 6. Obviously, there's the new stuff with the new stadium that's been given the green light. They obviously have Lukaku on for another 2 years. They don't really need to sell him yet. I'm sure there's a few other players they're determined to keep hold of as well. And I guess for Everton, they are the team of kind of the Premier League who you'd say, yes, they could maybe break into the top 6 if they signed smartly. And I feel like this game was perhaps a little bit of an indication of that kind of just the golfing class between those teams in the top 6 right now. Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, City, Arsenal, United, and an Everton who they rely very much on a few players like Lukaku, like Barkley, to really pull the strings and make something happen. And they, especially with Lukaku, obviously, he's kind of got the fans back on his side a little bit because he scored a few, obviously after the little kind of initial transfer saga began where he said he kind of wanted to leave. But I feel like Everton fans will look at a game like this where you need your big players to come big and step up, and he wasn't there. And I think, I don't feel like you can blame Lukaku really, but at the same time, I felt like for Everton it was just a lack of quality. But to be fair to Everton, they have a lot of young players. Tom Davies coming through, obviously the goal scorer. Is it Pennington? I don't want to get it wrong. It is Pennington. Lots of younger players, and I'm sure that with a bit more experience, this is the kind of game maybe they could challenge for in a few years. But I felt like for Liverpool, it was just comfortable. Really, I feel like when Origi scored, it kind of you didn't ever feel like the game was then going to be lost. I feel like at 2-1 with Liverpool, you always feel
killed the game.
But Origi killing it off in the 60th minute. I actually looked at the stats of this game. It was closer than I thought it was because it just didn't really feel that close. Just watching it, I wasn't nervous as a fan for my team throughout.
Yeah, I just saw on Everton quickly. I watched the Everton Manchester United game in midweek. Everton looked really good. They didn't have the majority of the ball, but when they did have the ball, I thought they played it really nicely. Lukaku gave United's back line all sorts of problems. Obviously, they were unlucky to not win that game in the end. He got the penalty after Williams' handball. But I thought Everton responded really well. I think Coman will take a lot from that United game. Or at Old Trafford, they looked a far better side. I was to the point where I was actually impressed by the way they sort of managed Manchester United throughout the game, and then looked really dangerous on the counter attack.
Saying that, he made some in the Liverpool game. He made a few funny choices. He's been playing Barkley a little bit wider towards the right hand side, or the kind of the 3 behind Lukaku, and he put him right down the centre in this game, and I think that was one of the reasons why. I think Barkley looked a little bit swamped and wasn't very effective. One of the things that has been helped the kind of connection that he and Lukaku has had is that he's been able to sort of, especially when there's Mirallas and Davis sort of breaking from the centre, gives him a little bit more space out wide to try and pick out Lukaku because he's got a very good delivery, Barkley, and he didn't have that in this game, and that was interesting. I would have liked to have seen a journalist maybe ask him what his kind of thinking was behind doing that because it definitely impacted his performance.
Well, we'll come to Bradley on that. Tactically, Bradley, I thought Coman got the Liverpool game largely quite wrong. He played a 5 with two fullbacks, tried to play sort of Lukaku, Barkley, Calvert-Lewin as a sort of the forward line, but Gray and Davis in the middle. Or is it kind of Gay? How would you say it? He's a former player of yours.
Gay, yeah.
Him and Davis in the middle just got overrun by Liverpool's midfield and attack as well. They don't really play a striker, so.
Yeah, I know. I found that the most surprising. Have they played a back five this year? I don't.
They tried against Chelsea, and I think they also did it against maybe Spurs as well. And obviously against Chelsea, they got
obviously against
battered.
the bigger side. Yeah, it's obviously against the bigger sides they try again. Yeah, I mean, as I was saying earlier, Lukaku just got marked out of the game, which is a bit surprising as considering. I mean, we've talked a lot about Liverpool's defensive problems, and a player like Lukaku who is in hot form. I mean, for him to get marked out of the game, obviously that means that the players behind him obviously haven't suited to that system. I don't, and I think it also didn't help that the fact that he had so many injuries to his back line. Because if Coleman was playing, then it could have been a little bit different on the right hand side. I think because Coleman can really play two positions, can't he? Rather than, and I think they play Holgate there, and I'm not convinced by him, and I wasn't convinced by Calvert-Lewin either. No. I mean, they've got a lot of players on the bench who could fit this. I mean, they could have gone three in the middle. I don't know why they didn't try to play Barry there. Barry behind or.
It's interesting to say because obviously Liverpool played Lucas in there without Henderson, without Is Henderson something? Yeah, without Henderson, they put in Lallana, of course, missing. That's who it was. With Lallana missing, they put Lucas in to sort of be the right spaces to sit in front of Lukaku when you've got two behind. And because they had that extra man in the middle, all of a sudden, because Barkley wasn't having a massive impact on the game, Liverpool seemed to dominate the midfield really, really well. And you're right, a player like Gareth Barry would probably fix that, would probably be the solution to that problem. And you're also probably right in that you say that without Seamus Coleman, the fact Everton has to change things round, all of a sudden you're not even getting what you usually get out of Lukaku. So overall, maybe Coleman's hand was forced a little bit to have to play this system, which doesn't really suit the players he's got. But yeah, overall I thought Liverpool looked pretty good. And then followed it up with a great 4-0 win against Bournemouth in midway. Oh, no.
That didn't happen. No. Can I just say, last thing on this game, and we'll probably talk about Everton United shortly, more so on the United side of things. Ronald Koeman is a dickhead. Did anyone watch his end of...
It's been a few months.
Did anyone watch his end of match comments after the Merseyside derby? He tried to justify Barkley's tackle by saying it's a man's game. As if to say that kind of tackle, you should just shrug it off and that should be fine. And I think he was actually more so directing it at the team on the bench. But I feel like if my player's ankle gets snapped, I'm going to react. Or if it's a dangerous tackle like that, you're going to react. And it was just, I feel like he didn't really acknowledge that he made any mistakes in this game, Koeman. And he kind of was very quick to defend his players. When in reality, I don't know if there's that much that Everton fans could take away as a positive from that game.
Fair enough. Shall we go to... We don't get to talk about this very often, folks, but shall we talk about Chelsea 1, Crystal Palace 2 at the weekend? That was an interesting one. Chelsea have looked so good this season. With every goal came within the first 11 minutes. But Sam Allardyce, he's back, people, and he's getting Palace a win at last. Benteke and Zaha on the score sheet. The first time we've seen Chelsea falter, Keno. Your boys, what's happened?
Well, I think with the win, I mean... it's kind of merging two together, but I think that was a stumble. But with the win that they got last night, of course, over City, I think that sort of pushed them over the line, or 2 nights ago. But the gap was still big enough. I think Crystal Palace deserve a lot of credit for this game, and no one will have enjoyed this win more than Sam Allardyce, because they've been in great form, and Sam loves going to a big club, who's playing well and just upsetting everything. So he'll have taken a lot of sort of, personal pride out of that. My favourite moment from this game was Benteke's little finish. Over
Courtois. Were you in flashbacks?
Yeah. Well, not so much now with King Codger, but I did enjoy that. Interesting because it was the first game, I think, since Conte made the kind of famous switch to the 3 at the back. This was the first time that they didn't have that 3-man defence and they had the back 4. And I mean, you could point to maybe other factors.
Can I just say, I think I know why he's done that. Chelsea have not kept a clean sheet in their last 9 league games.
Yeah, that's true.
They are struggling to keep teams out. So maybe, I don't know if it was forced or whether it was a little bit to do with the fact that he thought, well, Palace at home, that should be comfortable. Let's just see if we can use a back four and keep a clean sheet. Because Chelsea have been conceding a fair few goals. A lot of their wins of late have come by a 1-goal margin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually. I didn't realise they'd been conceding so many, but you're right. They're obviously conceding at City and Palace, Stoke before that, West Ham before that, Swansea before that, Burnley, even Arsenal. So, they've been struggling a little bit at keeping teams out. Proudy, to you, what do you make of Wilfried Zaha, who's having a really, really good year? Of course, has now fully declared himself for the Ivory Coast. There's been loads of talk about that. Sam Allardyce handled that, I thought, pretty well, because people were saying, well, what do you make of Zaha deciding to play for the Ivory Coast? And Allardyce was like, well, he's decided to play for the Ivory Coast. Like, what do you want me to say about it? It was just like, well, of course, yeah, I can't make a decision now, gents. It's been done. But what do you make of Zaha? Obviously, got that big move to Manchester United after being at Palace beforehand, has gone back to Palace, and finally looks like the player that Manchester United thought they'd bought.
He's a weird player, isn't he? Because I think he always who do you remind me? It's sort of like Traore at Middlesbrough. He lacks the final product. I thought he's a brilliant dribbler, very dynamic player, but I think it was his finishing and his just getting the final pass into the box which always let him down. And I think that's probably what United noticed pretty early. There was he doesn't have the final product, and then as the season progressed, they noticed that he wasn't improving in that aspect. I think the thing it could be the fact that he's actually picked Ivory Coast and he's being loved by a manager who's going to pick him internationally. Because I was surprised he didn't get picked for England more. Because we always talk about our wingers are the strongest point in the England team, and he never really got called up. I think he got called up once when he joined United, and that was it.
Well, he had 2 caps for England.
You might have a point actually with the Ivory Coast thing, because I think he's been able, particularly this season, like you mentioned the end product, that he's definitely had that this year. Even before Sam Allardyce came in, he'd been a pretty good performer for Palace. And I think sort of declaring for Ivory Coast, getting yourself out of the spotlight a little bit and the scrutiny that comes with being a potential England international or an England international, someone who'd been to Man United and come back to Palace, etc. I think he's been able to work hard and away from a bit of public scrutiny, and that's definitely made a big difference. And some players handle that pressure better than others. He obviously didn't take to being at Man United and having all that expectation particularly well. And so I think it's actually kind of the fact that he has declared for Ivory Coast, got that kind of situation over with, and can now just focus on his football. I think actually probably has helped his form this year, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was he played 4 games for United. One in the Cup, one in maybe a Charity Shield, I think it might have been, and then 2 in the league. He barely featured for them. Has gone back to Palace. He's having his best season this year at Palace as well. He's got 7 assists so far, 6 goals. I mean, any winger in the league would take that at this stage. That's from 27 games. He's got that, so 13 points of contribution, if you like. And looks like he's. I think Palace fans would probably agree. He's definitely their star this season. If he doesn't play well, chances are Palace probably won't win the game, and when he is playing well, they're winning football matches, which is important. Of course, they actually lose to Southampton in the week. This is awkward, isn't it, when there's 2 fixtures, because you can't take anything from it. A lot of teams have won one, lost one, it feels like. But
it's a shame he's going to be going to Tottenham.
What was Zaha?
Yeah, he would fit there. Because
actually, we talked about this, didn't we? That
was rumoured. It was rumoured at the start of the season. There's more talk of it now because his contract is starting to. I don't know if it runs out this year or the end of next year. And I imagine he's going to be asking for a fair bit of money when he sees how much Jeffrey Schlupp's on. So, good luck.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But we mentioned that with Spurs before. We said Spurs miss a player who is this sort of a little bit of a. Basically, we kind of said they need Gareth Bale back. But if you can't get a player like Gareth Bale, a bit of an enigma. Zaha, to me, strikes me as a bit of an enigma. A bit of a player that you don't really know what to expect from, and sometimes will produce that little bit of magic that will win you a game. And Zaha might be that choice.
Also a pure winger, which Spurs don't have.
He's the sort of player, by the way, Pochettino would get the best out of, you feel. If I'm not trying to sort of devalue Sam Allardyce's contribution to football, but I can't help but think Pochettino would get more out of a player like Wilfried Zaha than Sam Allardyce ever would. Which, I don't know, now you've said that, Jack, I'd quite like to see that move actually happen. Because I think that's quite a nice natural step for Zaha.
It was really heavily rumoured at the start of the year, but there's been more talks of that in the last few weeks that I've been reading.
Interesting. Shall we very quickly then, we'll stick with Chelsea. Chelsea then went and beat Manchester City in midweek. You might as well stick with them as we're on it. A game where when any of the top 4 play each other, there's always going to be a few fireworks. And Keno, what did you make of it?
I thought that City were unlucky not to get anything out of this game. Actually, I didn't think I think Chelsea, in terms of their performance, weren't that dissimilar to how they played against Palace. Honestly, I thought Hazard had a better game, and he was the difference really. With some very good, his ball retention was just excellent. And he didn't put any. It was funny because it was like the Hazard that Mourinho hated at Chelsea. He was putting in no work defensively, but was saving all that energy for sort of explosive runs going forward. I thought, other than him, City actually, I think, played really well, and they've actually looked good in these games against the bigger teams. I think they looked good for the first half against Arsenal last week. And in other games against the big sides, like you see how good their ball retention and their movement is. And Aguero had a couple of very good chances in this game, and it could easily have been 2-2. And so to that end, I think they were quite unlucky. People will point at their defence as being the difference, really, and particularly for Hazard's first goal, when he had it pulled back to him, he found himself in an awful lot of space. And I know Kompany was back for that game, but you just feel that if he was on the top of his game, he might not have allowed that space to open up. And it was a game, I think, that was kind of both teams playing to their sort of stereotype of this season, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I think they sort of played true to form, where City kept the ball very well, looked good going forward, but had that soft centre at the back, and Chelsea were able to grind out the win, being kind of reactive, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think both teams adopted to the systems that they've tried to be taught to play this season, and we saw both of them do that. It was two teams coming up against each other that. There's something that feels like, despite Chelsea playing so well, there still feels like there's something, for me, I don't know what it is this season, something is missing from this Chelsea team to make them not just a really good Premier League side, but like next season going into the Champions League, there's something there that needs to change for Chelsea. I don't even know what it is at the moment.
Yeah, we won't. We might not know what that is until we've seen them play in Europe. It's funny because we're seeing this team who really could be. We don't know how good they'd be in Europe, and it will be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, but the reason I say that is because I don't think anyone is predicting Chelsea to go into the Champions League next year and be a contender. No. Like obviously they'll play okay, they'll get through the group, they'll probably get through the first knockout stage. It's after that, when they play the giants of Europe, how good is this Chelsea team? We've seen it with City, right? They're playing at City, who on paper, to me at least, their squad is probably as good, if not a little bit better than Chelsea's pre-season. Struggle to a team like Monaco. So it's going to be really fascinating to see when a Chelsea team gets into Europe just how well they'll do. And coming on to that, Jack, I mean, we've not heard from you for a few weeks. Is that the title done with this kind of win? I mean, Spurs are pushing, but Chelsea look like they're going to be uncatchable now.
I mean, 7
with 8 to go,
7 points clear, 8 games to go. I can't believe how quickly the season's gone. It feels like it's gone really quickly this year. But yeah, I feel like Chelsea. Part of me still feels like Chelsea can fluff it. But I mean, if they screw it up, Liverpool were top of the league with 2 or 3 games remaining, and they were 5 points clear. So I don't want to say anything too soon. Yeah. From personal experience, it still hurts.
Chelsea have got some the next few fixtures for Chelsea are quite interesting. Away at United, and away at Bournemouth back to back.
You could definitely see them getting a point away at Old Trafford, and that would bring it to 5. Yeah. So. Assuming Spurs win, of course. But
they don't play Spurs or Liverpool or City. Obviously, they've now played them. They don't play another team that can sort of really hurt them. So in terms of games they're going to win, Manchester United is probably the only one that will affect them. And then you look at their run-in, they play Middlesbrough, West Brom and Sunderland. Sunderland's their final game of the season. I mean, so essentially, let's give them that 3 points as well.
They lost to Palace.
Because we might as well.
They lost to Palace.
They're probably they're probably going to be 10 points clear. I don't know. They did lose to Palace, though. You are right. They did lose to Palace, but they've got the games coming out for Chelsea. Just look like games that routinely they should win, and there's going to have to be quite the collapse. And at the same time, we say this, right? Spurs have got to win every single game now. Really,
it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you said this is the thing that they don't have to play any of the other big teams other than United, and Spurs have beaten them twice this year. And if Chelsea come away with that, if they keep that 7 point gap, and win the league, Spurs will then look at those games where they've dropped points and think, wow, we've beaten the champions twice here. We should really be even closer than we are.
Yeah, I think. I don't want to hark on about them, but I think Liverpool will feel the same. They're like the points they're dropping to teams outside of the top 6 is going to be quite hurting for Liverpool. And not on on the reverse of this, right? Tottenham still play Arsenal, still play Manchester United. There's still teams in and around them that they've got to play that could hurt them and see them be leapfrogged if things start to go really badly. Whereas Chelsea don't have that situation, is what I mean. Chelsea aren't playing a team that can then
exactly
leapfrog them or get even close to them. So pressure-wise, there's not as much for them. Right, where do you want to go next, boys? I feel like there's so many games.
Let's go to Arsenal
suggestions.
City. Yeah, we've done City's midweek game. Let's go back in time.
Back in time.
To a time where Wenger's job was on the line. Arsenal Fan TV, there were riots in the streets.
There were. If you're an Arsenal fan, though, take 4 points from 2 games this week. I think most Arsenal fans would have probably taken that when you consider they're playing Manchester City.
This game, though, was one of the it was one of the strangest games of the season for me.
Yeah, it was.
It was really weird to watch because for the first 30 minutes, it looked as though City had turned up to give Arsenal a drubbing, and I was
4-0 half-time sort of stuff.
It felt like they were utterly dominating Arsenal, and it could be one of those games where Arsenal just capitulate against another good team.
Yeah,
and then after about half an hour, it wasn't even sort of half-time. It was earlier than that. Because Arsenal obviously got back into contention. City just totally took their foot off the gas. It was really weird to watch, and you could sort of, I don't know, the cameras weren't on Guardiola much like throughout that kind of little period. But if I was him, I would have been going crazy because they just lost all intensity. Arsenal were able to equalise with the Mustafi header, wasn't it? Because Walcott scored first, yes. And then it was the Mustafi goal. That was a soft goal to concede from a set piece across, and then
he's barely played for Arsenal this year either. So
I know exactly. For him to come on and do that was amazing. But then all intensity came out of the game for the next sort of hour remaining. There was just nothing, and it looked as though both teams were happy with a draw. Which at this point of the season, I think Gary Neville sort of summed it up on the Sky commentary. He was like, "What?" He didn't know what to say really. Because these are two teams that are scrapping for the top 4. The top 4 is by no means sort of confirmed yet. We're trying to kind of get 6 teams into 4 places here, and they just didn't look bothered. It was really weird to see.
Yeah, on Arsenal, Proudy, how do you see their rest of the season going then? Because as things stand, they're 6 points off the top 4 with the games in hand.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the year that we've not seen it very often, if ever, not for a long time anyway, that Arsenal don't get into the top 4?
I called it last week and I said the Man City game would probably be the one where they'd win and then they would spark a great run of form, because that always seems to happen at the end of the season when Arsenal look like they're going to not make top 4 and then they make it. But looking at their fixtures, I mean, they've still got the North London derby.
Just quickly, it's actually 4 points. They've got 1 game in hand over City. They've got 2 games in hand over Liverpool, and they're 6 points behind Liverpool.
But one of their games in hand is against Palace away, and we all know Allardyce always seems to get the better of Wenger. Always seems to, and. So I think, and then it's Borough away.
I never thought we'd be using Palace as the stick for to measure them with. Oh, well, they've got Palace away coming up, so that's going to be a tough one.
I mean, Borough away. I mean, they've still got the North London derby as well to play. They've still got United to play at home, and I mean Mourinho. You could sort of guess what Mourinho's going to do if they've just not bothered with the league.
Arsenal are awful in those games. They've got a terrible record against other top 6 teams.
Yeah.
So
Arsenal's, I should say, of the top 6 probably, Arsenal's run-in looks the most difficult. Like all their home games, so they've got Premier League home games against Leicester, Manchester United and Everton, which in itself they're not comfortable matches. And their away games are away at Stoke, away at Tottenham, away at Palace, as Proudy mentioned, and they've also got a game away at Middlesbrough. Now, that is a game that Middlesbrough, for all of their sort of season woes, can't afford to lose. Middlesbrough at some point need to decide, you know what, we need to start digging in. It would be quite funny, wouldn't it, if they decide against Arsenal. But we talked about this before, right? Arsenal have 2 Monday night fixtures coming up. I think we mentioned this last week, actually. Arsenal have 2 now, back-to-back Monday night fixtures, away at Palace and away at Middlesbrough. Both teams fighting for their lives. Like, if there's going to be a team more up for that, is what I'm getting at, than the other one. Like, for whatever reason, right, I can't imagine Sanchez, Ozil and the rest of them being really up for an away game at Palace or an away game at Middlesbrough. Whereas those players that are, as I say, fighting for their Premier League safety, that they are 2 tricky fixtures for me.
Yeah,
just the very nature of where they are and how they're going to be structured. I'm just interested to see how that goes.
I know we've kind of joked about Palace a little bit, but it is worth knowing that before Southampton lost midweek, they had won 4 on the bounce and only conceded 1 goal in those 4, and that was to Chelsea. And the worst thing, I guess, for them is the fact that they are still only 3 points clear of the drop because of how bad their running was before Allardyce really got his teeth into the job.
Yeah. Right. Shall we move on? Are we good with what we said there about City and Chelsea?
I think so.
I feel that's good.
Pretty
Again,
much,
I'll give anyone free reign. Priority. What games do you want us to go to? We've got, as I say, so many games to go through. Take your pick.
I'm leaning towards United Everton. I think that is
I
very
think we should go down
intriguing.
the bottom. What do you think about the bottom, boys?
Probably wants to go there.
Villa fan wants to care about the bottom. Let's go to United.
Yeah.
He
I
was
was
used to
going
it so
to
much
say,
last
with
season.
United, it's weird how they've got... actually, pundits have been labelling it the worst unbeaten run in the Premier League, because I think...
It is the worst unbeaten run in the Premier League. It has to be. There's no... 20 games, was it? And they're still 5th. What's
10
going on there?
10 draws of those 20 games. I'm thinking, and it's the teams that they're drawing as well. Everton aside, the teams that are drawn at home, Bournemouth,
West Brom.
Yeah, West Brom, Hull, teams like that. That's not who Liverpool.
Little Mickey Mouse team.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Drawing it. No, see, lower league, not lower league, but lower Premier League table fans. I stuck up for you. I wanted to include you in the schedule.
Well, I want to know what Brady thinks about Manchester United. So Manchester United's Brady, a very similar situation to Arsenal. In fact, they're in an almost identical situation to Arsenal. 54 points, 4 points behind City, 6 points behind Liverpool with 2 games in hand. How do you see the end of the season going for them? They've got a lot of games still.
Yeah, I was going to say they've got 7 games in April.
Still in the Europa League. 7 games in April is a lot of games. And I'll say now, I don't think this squad is necessarily as strong as people make out. I think their first 11 on paper looks pretty good. Beyond that, United have just offered $100,000 a week to Jesse Lingard.
Who is his agent?
It's probably world class.
Is his agent the same as Jeffrey Schlups?
Could be. We'll look into that for next week. But how do you see the end of the rest of the season going for United then, Brady? You mentioned they've got a lot of games coming up.
I think Mourinho's going to give up with it. I think he's going to focus on the Europa League. I think he probably knows that the amount of times they've dropped points at home and away, should I say, they're not going to break into the top 4, because the amount of chances they've had where they've won a game and then suddenly it looks like if they win the next one they'll be in the top 4. And then they'll drop points again. And I think he'll just go and focus on the Europa League just to get into the Champions League. I think that's probably what he thinks is his only route into the Champions League next year. Which would be intriguing. I think that's probably the first time I've seen an English club actually take the Europa League seriously. Other than Liverpool last year.
I'll speak from experience, United fans. That's a dangerous little game to play.
Sevilla aren't in it though this year. So it's Sevilla aren't in it though this year though. So it's fine.
No, that's very true. That's very true. There's still some decent teams left in the Europa League.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you said
Leon.
Yeah, you said there, Proudy, that you think that's Mourinho's mindset. Do you think that's the right... At this point for Manchester United in the season, do you think that is the right move?
Probably. You look at the teams that they've still got to play in the Premier League. They've still got City away, still got Chelsea at home, still got Arsenal away, Tottenham away. Are they games they're actually going to win to break into the top 4? You could probably take Arsenal away, maybe, and that's it. That's probably all I could say at a stretch. Like the others, Tottenham away, they'll probably. Mourinho will probably play for a draw, but I have a feeling they'll, get a 1-0, 2-0 defeat.
Yeah. Well, you could see them getting points against all of them. You can't necessarily see them winning any of them.
No.
Do you know what I mean? That's the thing.
They'll stay outside the top 4 because of it. And then if they stay outside the top 4 and Mourinho decides not to take the Europa League seriously, then what do they do? Because they sacked Van Gaal for not getting in the top 4. Fair enough, they won the FA Cup, but he didn't get in the top 4. Moyes didn't get in the top 4, so they sacked him. So what are they going to do with Mourinho?
Well, that's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
We'll kind of touch on that, because I tweeted a few weeks ago, actually, if Jose Mourinho doesn't get Manchester United into the top 4, where does he stand then as Manchester United manager? He didn't, he spent a lot of money. He's going to have to do that again. And all I've been hearing recently, right, is, well, Griezmann would be perfect in this Manchester United team, unless they're in the Champions League. I know you might say they've got Pogba and Zlatan, right? But this is going to be another year, Manchester United in the Champions League. How are they going to attract someone like Antoine Griezmann? Where's that going to come from? How are they going to get the top players to invest and believe Manchester United will become this again? It's all well and good having these world-class players. There's talk that Zlatan's off to LA Galaxy, by the way, in the summer. That's almost done, apparently. Now, we'll see if that's the case. This is Zlatan. He'll do whatever he wants. But, Kino...
He'll probably buy LA Galaxy.
That would be quite fun to see, wouldn't it? But, Kino, what do you think about Mourinho? Do you think he has to be given another year as a point of principle? Like, he spent too much money to just bin him off again and then go through the same cycle they're currently going through? Where do you stand on Mourinho at the moment?
with a risk of sounding like one of those sort of pundits that's like always calling for the manager to be given more time, I do think he, despite spending a lot of money, because of who he is, I think he's kind of bulletproof at least this year. If they're in this position this time next year, I think there's question marks over his job security. I think he's fine this year. Whether that's correct or not, and if another manager would be that secure, as you've said, Van Gaal and Moyes didn't get the same kind of treatment, remains to be seen. But he will be Manchester United manager this time, come the start of next season.
Jack,
that I'm pretty sure.
Thoughts on Jose Mourinho and his Invincibles?
I think I don't think they'll let go of him this year. I feel like he could have afforded to finish for this year, and they won't sack him. To be honest, I feel like it's one of those positions where they've almost invested too much, the United board, into the success of Mourinho, and to now just throw it away, it'd almost be risky. And I feel like whatever manager you bring in, I hate to use the kind of the fact that Mourinho has a pull about him, to bring players in. Yeah. But I'm sat thinking, who would they bring as a replacement, and then who would they be able to bring in? And they're just, I don't think there really is anyone. But
you're right. If they sat Mourinho, Jack, who's a bigger manager than Mourinho that they could realistically
But I think the fortunate thing for Mourinho is, at least it seems like from the outside in, he hasn't really lost the team yet, and that was definitely the case at Chelsea. That was what ultimately lost him his job at Chelsea, was the fact that the dressing room is just a lost cause. Whereas it seems like, at least on the face of it, like the majority of United players are fairly happy with him.
You say that, I think I can think of one name who isn't so complimentary of Mourinho at the moment. That's Luke Shaw, because he's been saying some very not very nice things about Luke Shaw. Like even just after this Everton game on Tuesday night, Luke Shaw forced the penalty, which got them back into the game with a decent shot, which was going in on the replay. And he didn't do too badly, and he's been critical of Shaw recently for not having intensity in training, not keeping himself in good shape enough. And he was asked about Shaw, and he was like, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was like, yeah, he had a good game, but it was with me standing right next to him. It was like it was him playing with my brain or whatever. And I was like, that's not, like, I'm all for kind of giving a player potentially. I think there's a place for a manager to kind of call out a player a little bit in the media to give him a bit of a kick up the arse. But
it was in the way that Koeman did it with Barkley and got a response. This is it seems a bit more personal with Mourinho. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit weird.
It is odd, and there's been talk of maybe Spurs coming in for him if Danny Rose goes to Man City. That's the rumour mill thing that I've seen. But if I was sure, I would not sure I'd want to stay much longer under. Good.
No, you did it. You take the credit, mate. That was classic.
But I think I'd be considering my options if I was him.
So as a group, we're kind of decided that Mourinho gets another year or gets another half a season. To me, it depends. Like, they're not going to. You're right. They're not going to sack him. There's no way. But if they finish outside the Champions League, he's been brought in. I'd be interested to know where we all thought they'd finish come the start of the season. I think I had them as third at the very start of the season. I didn't see any way they wouldn't finish in the top four with Zlatan. Do we remember where we had them, boys?
I made a big case. I made a big case for them to finish behind Arsenal, so I'll stick with 5th or 6th, I think, this year.
What did you think, Friday? You weren't here, but what did you think pre-season about
I mean, it's embarrassing now. I actually genuinely thought they were going to be title challengers.
I think a lot of people did.
You weren't the only one. I thought they'd be close to City and Chelsea.
I even thought that in October. I thought, no, it's all right. Like, they're just going through a bad run of form. They'll be up there. And then as the months went past, I thought, yeah, they're probably not in the title race anymore.
They're unbeaten,
I think their time's gone.
Don't worry, Paddy. There's no shame in getting your title predictions wrong. Only one of us has been on the money.
Well, we don't know. Crystal Palace is the next game, so we'll decide after that, Keno, if you were right. Let's go down the bottom then, finally, Keno. Sunderland are the worst team since Aston Villa. It's pretty abysmal. Yeah. Me and Jack were talking before we started recording. David Moyes is not a man that inspires, in my opinion, and Sunderland are a team that need a little bit of inspiration. They need Paolo Di Canio back at the helm. They are 10 points.
Do they?
They're 10 points off survival. Hull are now 30 with a game in hand.
They're down.
They're gone. Jack's put the nail in the coffin. They're gone. Are we all proud of you? You've just taken on a Football Manager save on YouTube with them. Do you think you can do a better job than David Moyes?
It's debatable. I think the thing that Sunderland are missing the most this season is Newcastle in the league. I think there's always that thing where they sack a manager before the derby and then suddenly hire a new guy and then they win and then it sparks a great run of form and they stay up like every year. But without Newcastle, I mean, who are they going to rely on? Middlesbrough away? I mean, it's not really the same, is it? So.
No. Fabio Marini's not up for that one just quite as much. The interesting thing, though, I was looking at this before we started recording. On the surface, Sunderland's team isn't that bad. If I read you out the team, right, that played against Leicester in midweek, they lost the game 2-0. Somani and Vardy come back into form, obviously, as of Leicester as a whole. By the way, that decision doesn't look so bad now, does it, boys? That old Ranieri.
No, that's really a lot of people have gone very quiet now.
Yeah, I've not heard much about how much of an injustice it was. But I'll run you through the Sunderland team. They've got Pickford, good young keeper. I think it's very
He'll
similar.
Be gone in the summer.
Similar to when Hart was at Birmingham, I would say. Similar to that sort of scenario.
Butland.
Of course, that was alone at the time, though, of course. Back line, Billy Jones, is it? Kone, Donaya. I'm not entirely sure how you say that. Praddy? You must have learned
Donaya.
That's exactly what I said. Ovidio left back. Catamol and Dong, Rodwell, Larson, Defoe, Barini. I said to Jack beforehand, that's not worse than like Burnley's team. That's pretty. To me, they should be doing way better than they are. 20 points from 30. How has he not been sacked? Is he on a big wage or something? Like, it's pretty tragic.
They've not really spent that much money either, though, have they? I feel like the money's
Well, they spent 10 million on it in Donk, didn't they? And that was a bit of a weird signing. Like,
but squad-wise, right? We're led to believe, proudly, that Sunderland have got this like awful team that we're never expected to stay up. I think I might have even said that in like a previous show. In reality, their team is not that much worse than Middlesbrough or like Swansea, for example. Swansea, we said pre-season, I've probably got like 1 or 2 star players in the same way that Sunderland probably have, and Sunderland are so many like points off. They don't even look competitive in this division at the moment. Every game they go into, they play well for about 20 minutes, and all of a sudden that's it, game over. And they either draw or lose it. Like it's baffling what's going on.
It probably is Moyes. Like, it's weird as well how like 4 years ago, you know, the new Man United manager, and now he's going to end up in the Championship like within 5 years. It's actually that's dependent if they keep him. They probably will, because supposedly the chairman wanted him for the last 5 appointments. He wanted Moyes, but Moyes couldn't go because, you know, he was at United, then he got sacked and he didn't want to go, and then he was at Sociedad, and then other stuff happened.
I forgot that happened. I forgot he went to Sociedad. I forgot that was the thing.
That was.
It's like Gary Neville at Valencia. It's like a weird dream.
When David Moyes was just picturing him looking really burnt.
He was shit there as well.
Ian Chris in the stand. Yeah.
We all agreed then that he should never have left Everton. David Moyes is still at Everton and still be doing all right. Like everyone think he was a good manager. Well, the thing is, right, David Moyes' reputation was so high at Everton to the point where when he got the Manchester United job, he kind of just went, yeah, all right, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. And now all of a sudden, he's, as probably says, bottom of the league with Sunderland, probably going to be in the Championship next year. Disaster has struck. So we're deciding then that they're down. Are we all agreed on that? Sunderland.
Yeah, it was definitely these last 2 games of the weekend and the midweek with the 1-0 loss to Watford, and then the one at Leicester as well on Tuesday. That I think that those were the 2 final nails in the coffin, which really, I mean, that David Moyes has been predicting for the whole year. Like he predicted a relegation battle.
He's the manager. Why is he predicting it?
I like to believe he has a fancy football team and he just picks his Sunderland squad based off who they're playing against. Like, to favour his team.
But no, David Moyes has got a fantasy team, right? There's no Sunderland players in it. Not even one.
Definitely. Puts his captain on whoever's playing against Sunderland.
The worst thing is, though, Sunderland look like a team that know that. They know that none of them are in his fantasy team. Oh, dear, poor David. Sorry, Keno.
Sorry, I was yawning.
Caught there.
I thought I could get away with one. It's all this talk about Moyes and Sunderland. I think the fact that he has been talking in those terms, like I say, he's been predicting that they were going to get relegated since pre-season, suggests
that as a sentence again just makes me laugh. David Moyes is predicting the team he's managing is going to get relegated. But he's said every week.
If you go back and look at like the Sky interviews and stuff, like around deadline day,
it's going to be a very tough job. Kino, it's going to be a very tough job.
That was sort of Alex Ferguson-esque. It was a lot more broad. But I think the way that he's talking about that suggests that he knows his job's secure. I mean, you're talking about whether he gets sacked. I think he's probably, and I think it's probably right, really, that he's probably sat down with Ellis Short and said, we've been in a state for about 5 years now. We do need to go down, take stock and rebuild. and I think Moyes probably over the long term is the guy to do that for them. But it just doesn't make his kind of attitude this season any better. I think we should talk a little bit about Leicester as well in this game, because Vardy's back in the goals, and that volley that he scored was absolutely delish.
It was very Vardy.
Sorry, that was in the Stoke game. I'm getting this mixed up because the two great goals from Leicester were in the Stoke game, which Ndidi's. Which one did you think was better, the Ndidi goal or the Vardy one?
I love it when a centre mid brings the ball from Ndidi and then just lashes it in, like, especially when it's a play you don't really expect.
Right. Yeah, I do like a bit of a thrush at goal. Vardy's was a bit of a thrush as well, though, to be fair.
Yeah, I like the sweetness of his volley. It was good. He's back.
Yeah.
He's back.
Can I quickly make a Sunderland prediction? Sunderland will be 14th in the Championship this time next year.
I'm going to put my neck out.
Go on.
I think
I
think they will stay up.
Oh, yeah. Get out!
I generally do.
No.
I generally think there's something.
It's rubbish.
Paddy, no, it's fine.
Look, they're going to beat United. They're going to beat United 2-0. It's a Defoe brace, and then they're going to go on a great run of form, and then by the end of the season, they'll beat Chelsea.
Okay, Paddy, we're going to do this, mate. If they don't stay up now, you're not on the show next year. So
okay.
I was going to say, how secure... How secure did you think your position was on the show, Proudy? like David Moyes?
Someone's got to put an out there prediction, and I want to fulfil that role this week. So
okay, well, Jack, you've got to be normal this week.
Mark my words, 2-0 win over Man United this weekend.
All right, we'll see. We will definitely come back to that, listeners. If they do it, then put a bet on it, Proudy. Maybe £10.
I will. Yeah,
get some risk involved on that one. You get bloody good odds. Let me tell you that much. Right, I think that almost wraps up. Do you know what? This point can wrap up this week's show, folks. Unless there's anything
it's
else
been a bit here, there, and everywhere this week, but there's just been so much football on.
Too much
Such
football.
Quick succession. Should we talk Spurs real quick? Because they got a very weird result last night, didn't they?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the upcoming fixtures, folks, because frankly, lots of teams are just playing
so much stuff.
There's not like a huge game this weekend coming up. But we'll talk about Middlesbrough, Burnley maybe, but apart from that, there's not too much going on. Go on then, we'll quickly touch on Spurs, who are looking like the most informed team in the league right now.
And a Hull mention as well. Well, there's two mentions that I want to get in. Yeah, firstly, for Spurs somehow clawing back and keeping the pressure on Chelsea. I thought for the life of me that this would be the one where they came unstuck, and it would be a very Spurs result actually. That the gap, they suddenly gained some ground on Chelsea. They've got a difficult game against City, and then this was the night where Spurs dropped points.
And very nearly did.
And they very nearly did. And there were two really nice assists in this game. One for the Spurs goal, one from Vincent Janssen, who came on. And looked.
Oh, is he?
He's lagged out.
I think we lost him.
He's lagged out.
Well, never mind then. Never mind. We'll keep that in mind, Keno. We've lost him, listeners. I don't know where he's gone, what he's done. I think his internet went. He signed out of Origin at the same time, so I can only assume he's
well, let's hope his PC didn't blue screen and we lost the recording. Otherwise, you're not hearing this.
Disaster. On that though, Keno is right though. Tottenham are very much in form. Managed to get a really good win against Swansea. They've won their last 5. Can either of you name the only other team to win 5 in a row at the moment?
Is it Leicester?
It is Leicester. Hull have won 3 of the last 5.
Oh, it's like they're unbeaten in 5 or 6 at home. That's what I'm thinking of.
You could well be right. But yeah, them and Leicester both have won 5 in a row on the bounce. Leicester lost 5 in a row, changed the manager and won 5 in a row. It's quite funny, really. But on Spurs, they look like the only real challengers to Chelsea this season by a distance, Brody.
Yeah, I mean they were the challengers last season. Well, not to Chelsea, but they were. I think I always say that they're nearly there, but they're not quite there yet. They're not. I don't think they're title winners yet. I think it probably doesn't help that Kane's injured as well. I think if he was fit for the entire season, because didn't he miss the start of the season as well this year?
Yeah, he didn't play the first couple.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have him fit for the entire season, and the system that they play now is actually superb. I've never seen the players get so much space. I think it was yesterday. I was watching some of the footage, and I was thinking these players are getting so much space, and I can't understand how they're managing to get that much. It's the system obviously has worked around those front 3. I think it's Eriksen, Ali, and whoever, Kane or Janssen, or Son.
Yeah. As well, yeah.
So it's good to see, but as I said, they're not quite there yet. I think they're probably missing that dynamic player. Probably Zaha. I mean, if Zaha goes, he might be the key to, which is a bit of a weird saying because Zaha's actually never won the Premier League, but he could be the key to Spurs actually winning it.
Yeah, player like him. Maybe
yeah,
player like him. Do you think Spurs will. Well, I mean, the good thing for Spurs, Jack, is that Spurs will finish in the Champions League places this year, which at the start of the season, I think I probably had them as sort of 5th, 6th. I thought the other teams would come stronger. I thought United, Arsenal, and City would all be stronger than they have been this season. But Spurs are probably not only going to be in the Champions League, but finish second to Chelsea, which is, how you look at it, it's still quite impressive.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have put them in the top 3 this year. I thought they'd be battling for 4th, and I actually said I felt like they might progress as a team because I thought they were very good last year, and it's a very young squad that Tottenham have. But I was kind of concerned that they maybe improve, but just other teams would improve more. When in reality, actually, they've shown that it wasn't really a one-season wonder. You know, it wasn't kind of a fluke whereby there were a handful of their kind of top players who really played well for 1 year, and we're never going to hear of them again. You know, they've kind of turned up once more this year. Pochettino's got them playing that style of football that has really seen them get a lot of success. And it seems like other teams just can't compete with it.
Keno's back, everyone.
Modern technology. My internet just went. Sorry.
Dear me. We talk about Spurs.
I was trying to talk about Spurs. Damn it! I missed my Spurs chat.
So you gave that up with your internet, Keno. I'm sorry about that. Jack, tell us about Hull, because I said 8 points at the start of the season. They've got 30 now, which is a bit irritating. Someone tweeted me today, didn't you say Hull would get 8 points? I ignored it completely.
I mean, Sunderland are twice as good as you thought Hull were going to be.
Yeah, I thought Hull would be the worst team in the league. But I give Marco Silva a lot of credit. He brought in some good signings in January as well. And as you say, Jack, their home form has been the catalyst. They're playing really, really well.
Marco Silva, I think he has a record where he hasn't lost at home in 2 years.
Yeah, they're unbeaten.
Is it 39 games?
It's something
mental. I think it's 39, yeah.
It's
39 games.
Lost at home. I mean, it's going to end eventually. I hate to break it to him.
Who have they got to come in the league? Who have they got?
I mean, it's a great question.
Who's dropping points?
They got City. Yeah.
That's going to be a win
City
for
away
Hull.
now, but I'm talking home games though. So there are home games remaining.
Well,
Tell you what,
home to Watford.
Yeah, Watford, Sunderland, Spurs on the final day. We saw what happened to Spurs last time in the northeast. Sorry, Hull fans, you probably won't like that. In the northeast, they might happen again because they lost to Newcastle, didn't they? Final day, they might drop points to Hull, and Hull could go for the rest of the season unbeaten at home, which would be marvellous. Do we think Hull will stay up, Jack? Do you think they will?
I want to believe. I feel like Swansea aren't playing that badly. Can I say something controversial here?
Sure.
I
get your one a weekend.
I think Burnley might go down.
Oh my God!
I think West Ham might go down.
Burnley are on 35 points. Imagine Swansea doing really badly. I don't even realise how bad Swansea.
Well, Proudly linked something yesterday. If Swansea had beaten Spurs, they'd be on 31, and all of a sudden, from Hull would have been then in 18th. From Hull in 18th to Bournemouth in 13th.
Southampton in 9th, actually.
Was it Southampton in 9th? There'd be like not that many points between them. All of a sudden, that would have really sucked everybody in.
But I mean, West Ham fans must be a little bit worried. I mean, they lost 3-0
midweek. 33
Palace
points.
are playing well, Hull are playing well. You'd say Swansea were a bit unlucky and on the end of a bit of a freak result.
I thought, sort of as we've noted though, a lot of the big teams play each other. So by proxy, a lot of the teams down there, sort of in the bottom, let's just say bottom 10 for now, all play each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how all those teams play against each other, where points are taken from. West Ham, for example, next game comes against Swansea, then they play Sunderland, and then they end the season against Burnley. And the way Proudy and Jack are talking, that could be the game. That could be the game.
I just want to go down to the end of the season. I feel like the title is not going to go down to the end of the season this year. I want at least one relegation spot to go to the end. I feel like Middlesbrough are probably down. I want it to
go to the last game of the season, Jack, and I want like 7 teams to be involved. 7 teams with a chance of going down would be absolutely fantastic.
And then you have the situation where like every goal is changing the makeup.
I love that. That is football.
I think my favourite relegation battle was 2004, 2005, where
West Brom survived.
It was 17th to 20th. Like anyone could go down, so it was basically one team would survive on the last day, and it changed so much.
Yeah.
There was a pretty good one. It could have been actually in the year of the Aguero.
Well, that was QPR, wasn't it?
That was QPR, and I think there was one involved Wolves as well, where Stephen Hunt scored like an amazing goal, and it was against Blackburn, and everyone in the ground had thought that had kept them up, but meanwhile the results had changed elsewhere, and they were down. Do you remember the one?
It's the season before. It's the season. Birmingham went down.
I'll trust Proudy on that one.
It was Birmingham. Was Birmingham at Spurs or something like that?
Yeah.
I do remember. I love a bit of final day drama. Apart from that United one with obviously Aguero, I can't really, or City and Aguero obviously, I can't remember like the title going down to the final day. Not for ages. where it's been sort of really crunch time. Actually, I'll take that back. Liverpool nearly did it a few years ago. If they'd have won and City had lost, it was on.
Don't remind me.
Yeah,
I remember once, I think it was Norwich 2001, 2002. It was obviously before the age of smartphones and the internet and stuff. And Norwich,
was that the Delia?
Well, no. This was the before that. This was when they were in the Championship actually, or it was called Division 1 back then.
Division 1.
Show my age. But it was really weird because I remember being I was only about 9 or 10 years old, and there were no smartphones or anything. So there was one guy with a radio, and Norwich I think got into the playoffs on goal difference. And there was literally, like thousands of people gathered around one guy with his radio, and they were listening for confirmation. And I've never been involved in one of those situations. You're sat in the ground and your game's finished, and everyone's still kind of sat there.
Yeah, Chinese
it's really
whispers.
good. It's like, they've scored, and obviously you can't just check your smartphone and be like, oh, what's happened?
I had a similar thing with Lincoln,
listeners won't understand.
No, they won't. Broadband. I remember the times before that. No, you don't. You don't. Right then, I think that is going to wrap us up for this week. It's a pretty good show, though, boys. I enjoyed this week. Lots of chat. Not as structured as normal because Kino could be bothered to
Can I just say?
Did it show?
Thanks, Windows.
One thing I need to do. Dear Brendan, just want to congratulate you.
Yes.
You've won the Scottish Premier League. You've done proud. Unbeaten.
Yeah.
And being interviewed after this game, he mentioned how it was a great personal result for him, and everyone had believed in him, and his project had been what had got Celtic to this point. It was all about him.
I think it's because Celtic are really, really good compared to everybody else.
To be fair, though, they are unbeaten this year. They are. I mean, I don't want to say they're going to do the unbeaten season.
Is that the most pointless unbeaten run this year?
But the thing is, you can say it however you want, but with him going in, he knows he's probably going to win the league at Celtic. But surely the dream is to go unbeaten. I feel like you can't.
I was going to say, there was talk about David Moyes going there. What could have been for Moyes, and
that's how he revived his career.
He could have won the SPL. We could have finally seen him happy, lifting a trophy, and now
imagine
he's
David Moyes happy.
No, I think he does need.
I don't think he can remember how to be happy. He's forgotten how to smile.
He was happy when he lifted the Community Shield, so that was great.
That wasn't real happiness, though, was it?
Let's face it. I will say, by the way, there's been just quickly, there's been 2 unbeaten seasons in the SPL. You'll never guess which 2 teams who got it. I mean,
Hearts and Aberdeen.
No, Hearts and Aberdeen, incorrect. No,
damn it.
No. Do you know what this is fantastic? Actually, it's a shame that we weren't more sort of present, right?
I've heard this stat.
Celtic in. Hang on. What am I doing here?
I don't know. I want a good stat now. You've bigged up if it's a false stat.
Well, no.
I'm sure the last unbeaten season or something was 1800s or something. There was a Rangers team that did it just before in the 19th century. So Celtic are trying to set some very long-term record.
Okay, so Celtic haven't done it since 1897.
That's right. Yeah. Right,
but actually Rangers did it in 1890, the next season. So Celtic did it. Oh, that's why I'm confused. Yeah, Celtic did it in 97-98. It's just weird to see this 100 years ago. But Celtic did it in 97-98, 1897-98. Then Rangers did it the year after.
They don't win every game.
They did that year. Rangers did win every game. The year before that, Celtic drew.
I thought you were gonna,
it's nice to know that. It's nice to know that some things.
I thought you were going to say it was the same year. Both go unbeaten. One team wins by goal difference.
That'd be good. Next year, do that next year, guys. Sort that out. But yeah, Celtic win the league. Shocking scenes there. It's beginning of April. Where would Celtic come? Actually, I'm just interested. This conversation comes up all the time. Pointless conversation, by the way. Never going to amount to anything.
Utterly pointless.
But I hate it. But we're going to do it anyway. Where would Celtic finish in the Premier League? We'll all just give a number, I think.
Well, Scott Sinclair, Villa reject, has been banging them in for Celtic, and he couldn't do it in the Premier League.
Right. Well, we'll go through. Jack, where positionally? Okay, in the football pyramid of 92 teams.
Can I give a reason?
What number would Celtic finish as they are right now?
Okay. I'd say promotion from the Championship. I think they'd get relegated from the Premier League or promote from the Championship. But I feel like it's because Celtic don't have the money a Premier League team has, to just plunk them in the Premier League would be unfair. So I'd want them to have a year in the Championship to kind of maybe walk it. and then have a year to build with some money.
Maybe walk
I think within a couple of years,
I
will say, I think in a couple of years, like if say you started Celtic, this is so stupid.
It's such a conversation, isn't it?
If you started Celtic in the Championship, within 3 years, they would be a top 8 Premier League team. I think I'll say that. In terms of size of club,
I guess the issue
them.
they'd have is the fact that they wouldn't be in the Champions League. Like would that because I feel like that would have quite a big difference on the players they could bring in.
To me, they'd be like another Everton, though. Like they'd be the biggest team in that, like in the area. They'd have a huge stadium. I don't know why we're doing this.
I think another Swansea.
Anyway, Jack thinks they'll just get promoted from the Championship. We'll do it anyway. Keno?
They'd be about a Sheffield Wednesday mid.
So not as good as Villa is what you're getting at.
Better than Villa.
Yet.
All right. Proudy,
once we made our run for the playoffs.
Would they challenge Pompey in League 2, Proudy, or are they above that?
I was going to say they're probably League 1 standard. So no, because
we're a Scottish listener.
I would like to point out.
He said Sunderland stayed up. He's not being serious today. Proudy, April Fools was last week.
No. Portsmouth had 2 players that we sold to SPL teams, and they couldn't get into our side, and now they're like playing week in, week out in the SPL. So if they can't get into a League 2 team and they can get into an SPL team, that just shows you the standard.
What if Pompey are actually like a Premier League side? But just
probably we're getting promoted, so hopefully by the next show we'll be promoted. So
what are we doing?
Yeah.
Worth saying. Well, hang on, just hold a hot second there, Kilo. Worth saying, in defence of Celtic, they got 2 draws against Man City in the Champions League this season. So, you know,
they always beat United as well in the Champions League.
The thing is, though, I feel like
they drew with Mönchengladbach, by the way. They didn't have an awful campaign. Only lost 2-0 to Barcelona.
But I do feel like they benefit from the fact those are the big games they look forward to every year.
Yeah, but even so, they've still got to be able to compete. 2 draws against City, it wasn't like a one-off. 2 draws.
I see that though in the same way as you see like certain lower league teams,
Lincoln,
who are kind of perennial FA Cup, upsetters and stuff. And
I see it like when the rest of the world beat Europe at Soccer Aid.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Right. How many celebrities from Soccer Aid would get into the Celtic team? That's
right.
That's next week.
Robbie Williams.
We have lost all listeners north of the border in this 5-minute chat. They've all gone.
Who would win in a game between Soccer Aid, rest of the world, and Celtic?
Oh, stop! End it, Ben.
Would Zidane get in the Celtic
hell.
team? He'd be the best player in the league. Okay, that is going to wrap things up then. If you've enjoyed this week's show, and if you're probably English at this point, you may well have done. Do leave a like on the YouTube video. If you are Scottish, let us know, where do you genuinely think, I mean, you don't have to necessarily be Scottish. If you're a football fan, where do you think Celtic will finish? That's our question of the week. We'll read some of the best reasons for why next week. Proudy, pleasure as always. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on again.
Keno, pleasure.
Thank you, Ben.
And Jack, it was nice to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good to be back.
And from me, Ben, at ForTheFans Show on Twitter, ForTheFansShow.com. We'll see you again next week. We love with
review iTunes.
We didn't have any this week, so I can't even read any out. I mean,
no, but do it.
I'll take any review at this point just to read it out this week. We love with care. Then from us at ForTheFans, we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
It's a magnificent sculpture of a gold Benji. It's perfection.
Keno, I think you're going to have to be calling for an oxygen mask over here, my friend.